Hey guys, what's going on? Bill here. Quick video just talking about your siding. So, again, there's a lot of different options across the country, right? And there's a lot that are more prevalent than others, at least around here. So I'm going to talk about really the big three. Um, Typically, most houses in new construction, you'd see a vinyl piece of siding put up. Um, Vinyl is probably my least favorite. Uh, it works. The thing I'll say about vinyl is the only good thing about it, in my opinion, is it's cheap. Um, if a homeowner calls me and says, we want you to do a vinyl installation on our siding, I'm probably going to tell them thanks, but no thanks. It's got a lot of problems, but it is the cheapest by far. So if you actually had a piece of vinyl siding, right, and you flipped it upside down, you'd actually see the little weep holes. That is because vinyl siding is actually not waterproof. Yes, it's going to handle the bulk of the water. If you have a sideways rain, it's going to hit the siding, go straight down. Maybe some of it will get behind, but not a lot. But they actually design it to allow water to leak out. And so it kind of tells you, it's like, all right, like how great is this stuff really? Again, it's my least favorite. Like, have I installed it? Yes. But I really don't recommend it. It's just one of those things that, generally speaking, like, you know, it's not a high quality assembly in my mind. It's super brittle over time, especially. Manufacturers are constantly changing colors, changing profiles, so you had to redo a whole section, like, or a side of a house, or just redo the whole house. But again, if you buy extra and you have some laying around and you just want to put it up, you can. The good things about vinyl siding, again, like I mentioned before, is it's pretty cheap and you can actually paint it. So that is an option. Like, if your siding is still in good shape, you can paint it. Will it last as long as some of the other paint jobs? No, but it's a cheaper, more economical option to do. Um, Moving on to the next one, and that is a fiber cement siding. So Hardie Board is really the name brand everyone kind of uses around here. And there are some that are competitors, but that's mostly what you see. That stuff is really cool because that's reusing a lot of recycled materials. Um, Pros and cons about that, again, that's a little bit more affordable than like a cedar siding. Um, the and that stuff, if it's installed well, it should last a very long time. It's still a little bit new to the market to kind of make that call. I would estimate 20 to 50 years. I don't know. The problems I have with it is, again, like, if that thing gets bumped in, it's pretty brittle compared to wood. So you have to go ahead and replace that section. They do have a repair patch. I haven't gotten it to work very well. I usually just end up replacing a couple pieces. That being said, to repair it is super difficult. So we, generally speaking, if you got one piece of damaged siding from that, you're probably gonna have to replace a few. Because you can pry and wiggle and try and get them out. You're probably gonna break another 2 to 3 as you try and get it out. So it's not an easy siding to replace. And that being said, too, sorry, power button came on. Yeah, it's just one of those things you want to think about. The other thing about that stuff is that it will last a very long time. I know the factories are doing kind of what the metal roofing company is doing. They're spraying some stuff on, before it even gets to your job site. Based on my conversation and my experience and talking to other contractors who've installed it, I actually don't love the pre-finished Hardie siding. The reason being is that, yeah, it looks good on paper. It still will age. It'll last a little bit longer than a paint job, but typically I don't think it's worth the cost. When you get it shipped to the job site, right, realistically, it's going to get banged up a little bit. Then you got some 20-something-year-old in the truck, who's getting paid next to nothing, who drops it off. Probably doesn't care. I'm just going to say it. Then we have to handle it, get it into position. It's going to get bumped around a little bit. That finish is going to get chipped. So if I was to go back and just touch up every single little imperfection, now we're going to, it might be the same color, but guess what? We're going to have a different sheen on it. So it's almost just not worth it. I'd rather put that siding up and then just paint the whole thing at once. And then it's uniform. It all has one color. It's the same sheen. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of my thoughts. Like, do I think that's way better than a vinyl siding? Like, 100%. It's really good, especially if you're living on the coast. So between the Hardie siding. I know they have various trims you can buy too, but if you use Hardie siding or like a PVC product like Azex or one of those other trims, and you have it on, if your house is on the lake or on the water, it should almost last indefinitely. You know, I mean, seriously, it'll last a very long time. So that's something to think about too, depending on your location, the moisture content, that kind of stuff. You know, it might be a good option. And yeah, that's really number two. Number three is my personal favorite, and that is a cedar siding. So I like cedar clapboard siding, is what we call it around here. Different parts of the country, they might call it lap siding. It's basically that horizontal looking stuff. It is the most expensive by far. You can get, you can order from various companies and actually get entire lengths that are clear, which has no knots in it, which is a premium product. You can get some that has some knots in it if you want to go with the stain grade look, which is kind of cool. I think we'll do that for this house. You can also get a paint grade look, which is what I did for my house. So with a paint grade look, they actually sometimes will finger joint the siding. And I'm not in love with finger jointing as a rule, but this is probably the one circumstance I think it's okay. I haven't seen the finger joints fail over time. I think that the technology and the glues and the way they do it is much better than it used to be. I have seen finger joint trim siding fail, but as far as like cedar clapboard siding and the way they do it, I have not seen any imperfections in it. Beyond that too, like cedar, I think the siding on my house is probably 70-ish years old plus. Mine's getting banged up. You know, it's just the reality of it. It's got some wear and tear on it. I could extend the life if I wanted to and just replace those boards. Realistically, with the air sealing we're doing on our property, it makes more sense to me to tear it all off and then to redo it. But that being said, I mean, like cedar siding, it's been around forever. If you need to repair a small section, tree hit it, branch, you know, you packed up your car into it, it's pretty easy to repair. Most home centers will have it. If it's a stain grade option, we might have to order it, or you know. So again, it's doable, but it's not crazy. And because it's been around forever, I mean, the worst part is figuring out the thickness or the width, and then you just gotta buy it. And installing it, you can usually install it in one. If you screw something up, maybe two pieces, but it's really not that big of a deal to do that compared to a Hardie siding. You know, as far as the paint jobs go on it, typically with modern day paint, I would say you probably have 2 to 5 years, depending where you live. If you're by the water, probably close to every 2 to 3 years you should paint it. If you don't live by the water, 5 or so. Sometimes you can stretch it. If you do a rain screen, it's called, behind that siding, there are guys who are building scientists who are also custom home builders who get super nerdy. They said their paint jobs have lasted 15 years, and they basically what they'll do is they'll take their siding, which goes like this, kind of like a zigzag, right? And they'll put little thin strips or a various waterproof mesh behind it. That leaves a little bit of an air gap between the siding and the house. Not a lot, but a little bit. And that allows it to either dry if it needs to, if water ever did get back there and it would drain out the bottom of it, or if it gets super hot, it'll actually vent it just ever so slightly. So there's less extremes with that. But yeah, that's kind of what I think about the siding, you know, we have around here. I mean, there's also some random stuff, like we have a couple of random stucco houses and stuff like that, but typically those are the big three. You know, again, cedar siding is going to be your most expensive, and there's various grades of that. Hardie siding or cement board siding is probably the middle of the road. And then the cheapest is vinyl, which we're not huge fans of. But anyway, guys, that's it for siding. Like, comment, if you got any questions, feel free to let me know. And yeah, we'll talk soon.